Terenzo Bozzone here, 5-time world champion, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show. Enjoy.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I trust you've been having a great week, and I trust you've been enjoying pursuing your physical best performance. We're in for a bumper edition in this, the second installment for 2018. Listeners, on today's show, I catch up with Terenzo Bozzone. This is an Ironman triathlon theme that we're continuing, following on from the success of last week's guest, Lionel Sanders, also an Ironman triathlete who is doing some outstanding things, just like today's guest, Terenzo Bozzone. Terenzo Bozzone has a very remarkable bio. Terenzo has 22 national New Zealand triathlon titles to his name. He was the 2001 Junior World Champion. He has been a 5 times World Triathlon Champ, including the coveted 70.3 World Champion in 2008. Terenzo also boasts the Busselton Ironman triathlon course record, which he set in 2016 in a blistering time of 7 hours and 51 minutes. More recently, Terenzo went on what some triathlon pundits and lovers are describing as one of the greatest rolls in momentum ever seen in the sport of triathlon. At the end of 2017, Terenzo went on a roll. He took out 4 podiums in 4 weeks across 4 continents. That's right. Off the back of his strong and successful Hawaii Ironman campaign, where Terenzo finished the 2017 Hawaii Ironman in 6th place, Terenzo recovered across several weeks before he jetted out to Mexico, where he won the Los Cabos 70.3 triathlon title. The following week, he jetted over to the Bahamas, where he took out 2nd in a sprint finish in the short course Island House Invitational event. A week later, Terenzo jumped on a plane where he flew to Bahrain, taking out 2nd place to a fast finish in Christian Blumenfeld in the 70.3 race there. 1 week later, Terenzo jumped on another plane and flew to Australia's WA, where he took out 1st place in the Busselton Ironman triathlon. 4 weeks, 4 podiums. We're going to hear from Terenzo today about how he did that. We're also going to talk about why Terenzo believes it's critical to trust in your preparation, pre-race psychology and the role that the family plays in it for Terenzo. We talk about Terenzo's darkest days in his athletic career. We talk about why Lionel Sanders, last week's guest, is Terenzo's toughest competitor he's ever faced. Terenzo shares around top tips for aspiring Ironman triathletes, talks about tasting camels, and we look ahead to the things of the future. It's going to be a great episode. Let's jump straight in with Terenzo Bozzone. Listeners, I've been looking forward to catching up with today's guest really since we first crossed paths in Hamilton Island earlier in the year for the Super League Triathlon Series, and that's Ironman long course triathlon sensation Terenzo Bozzone, T-Bone as he's affectionately known. Terenzo, welcome to the show.
Cheers, Brad. Cheers. Yeah, I'm glad we could finally make it work. It's been a long time coming.
Well, you've had a lot going on this year, and we'll go there in a moment. But let's start with something that's a bit fun. What's one thing that scares Terenzo Bozzone?
Lack of sleep, really.
What scares you about that, other than the obvious?
It's just pretty painful when you hear your 8-month-old child screaming at 11 o'clock it's just a bad time to get your sleep broken. I don't mind like 4 or 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock probably. If she can get through to 5, that's golden, because that's my wake up time usually. And if my wife can't do it, then what good is she?
And Terenzo, talking about sleep, I mean, on the personal front, leaving aside your massive year in sport, you've recently added a beautiful addition to your family. Congratulations.
Yeah, cheers, Brad. Yeah, we went from one kid to 2 this year in April. We had our daughter Zaya was born, and she was definitely trying for the first 6 months. But my wife Kelly's been great handling everything, especially with me traveling a lot during this year. And Zaya's crawling around a bit now, and her personality is really coming through.
What's the biggest change it's made on the practical front, going from 1 to 2 for the Bozzone household?
Yeah, you kind of get well, I guess it's like anything in life. You get used to not having kids, and even then you wonder how you're going to get through life. Like, life seems pretty busy and pretty hectic. Then you have one kid, and life just becomes that much more hectic. And all of a sudden you have 2, and I don't know when the last time my wife and I sat in front of the TV together was. So yeah, it's just full on. That's probably the biggest change. Is it's just relentless, never ending, because both the kids kind of need someone's undivided attention. And my wife works full time. She's got her own company, so just trying to juggle in childcare, looking after children, and training, and her working is pretty interesting.
Well, it would be a busy household, and obviously you can't do it without great support, and you've got a great team around you, and we'll go there as we go. Terenzo, what a year on the sporting front. I mean, I have been following the journey on social and other means, and it's just been sensational. I mean, 6 in Hawaii, first took out the 70.3 in Los Cabos, second in the Island House Invitational recently. That was, for me, one of the races of the year, the results of the year. Second just recently in Bahrain in the 70.3 race over there, and then taking out literally a week or 2 ago at this time of recording, Ironman Western Australia. All in 4 weeks. 4 incredible races in 4 weeks. First, second, first. How are you feeling?
Yeah, cheers, Brad. Cheers. It was a whirlwind trip, to say the least. I really enjoyed it. I quite enjoy doing those kind of things, and when I'm physically in a position where my body can recover and I can get the most out of myself week in and week out, it makes it that much more enjoyable. It was a good trip. After traveling with the family, it's a lot easier flying and getting through time zones and stuff by yourself. But it was tough being away from them. I was away from home for 3.5 weeks, and first stop was Mexico. Then from there, had a couple of days in Tampa, Florida, and then went down to the Bahamas for Island House. And that second place there, I guess in my books, it kind of counts as not a win, but a victory. Because I was hoping to make top 10. I wasn't expecting to be anywhere near the pointy end of the field, let alone fighting for first place. And then Bahrain, Busselton, and back home.
And Terenzo, with say Island House, for listeners that aren't familiar with the Island House, it's an invitational triathlon held in the Bahamas, and you've got a mix of long course athletes and short course, athletes that race professionally over the shorter distances, and it's quite unheard of for someone racing the races you're racing to mix it like that. What do you put it down to? Were you just in great form, or what was it?
I think my body was in pretty good form. I hadn't done any specific type preparation for it. Just after Kona, I guess I focused more on a little bit more 70.3 type preparation, and went with that. Those guys can really throttle it, and Super League earlier on in the year was an eye opener to see what those short course guys can actually do over the short distance. But as soon as you open up the bike to a non-drafting component, it allows the long course athletes, the people that do Ironman, the people that do 70.3 to, I guess, have a bit more of a fighting fighting chance when it comes to racing against the likes of Richard Murray and Mario Mola, and Cameron Dye. Well, Cameron's a good non-drafter biker, and same with Ben Canute.
Yeah, well, mate, absolutely sensational. How did Hawaii play out for you this year, Terenzo?
Yeah, sixth place in Hawaii was pretty awesome, actually. As my top finish, the last two attempts were DNFs. I think 2014, I pulled out in Kauai High coming back into town on the bike. To 2016, last year I pulled out, basically at the bottom of the energy lab, and slowly made my way back to town. So this year I kind of went into it with fresh eyes, and I just wanted to, I guess, just first thing was just to get through the race and get to the finish. And when we hit Waikoloa and things started going a little bit ugly after, I guess, Tim O'Donnell and Ben Hoffman and the group of us decided to make the move with Lionel Sanders and Cameron Worth and Sebi when they came past. I probably paid for it the most on the bike, but managed to consolidate enough to put together a strong marathon. And I was running into the energy lab. It was a little bit unknown because, in the past, the first two attempts, 2009 and 2010, that energy lab section back into town is just grueling. But managed to keep on good pace. Had James Cunnama running with me at that stage, and we were both giving it to each other. Just I guess trying to maintain our position, not lose any positions, and I guess we didn't think Sebastian was that close up the road or coming back to us that quickly. So we just, I guess between the both of us, we were just trying to consolidate as much as we could and get as close to the finish before one of us made the move.
And so best Hawaii finish to date, and obviously that bodes well for future years. And Terenzo, in terms of your accolades, I mentioned at the top of the show with your bio, but 5 times world champion. That includes 2008, taking out the 70.3 world champs. Of all your results, and you've been a prolific performer for years, I think you have 22, when I researched this episode, 22 national titles from your homeland in New Zealand. What's the most cherished result for you in your professional career to date? Which one and why?
Geez, that's pretty tough. That's always a tough question because, as professional athletes, we'll go through our career and while when we stand on the start line, we always want and part of us, I guess, expects to win. It's, during the year, if you stand on the start line 12 times, if you win 3 or 4 of them, that's pretty huge. And that's 30-40%, which is not a great return. So when you are crossing the finish line in first place, it's always very special. Probably at this stage of my life, probably something that has impacted, I guess my growth as a triathlete, as an Ironman athlete, and kept me motivated was how I performed last year at Ironman WA, going 7:51, breaking the course record and winning the race, and just finally, after 8 years of trying, finally having an Ironman race that I felt was that reflected my ability, and I learned a lot from that experience, and I guess brought that through to Kona and Ironman WA this year, and hopefully just can keep building on that, and that was definitely a breakthrough race for me, and it'll always hold fond memories.
What did you learn from it, Terenzo? You said that you learned a lot from it.
Yeah, the big learnings are just trusting myself, not being caught up in the fact of racing, and just trusting my preparation and just listening to my body when I'm out there. So when things start getting tough, just back off. Don't necessarily try and push to keep that power the same. Ride to feel. If you need to have a little bit of a breather, back off, have a little bit of a breather, and just as long as you keep moving forward at the best rate that you can, that's going to give you the best result at the end of the day in an Ironman. And
it takes discipline, right? Discipline to be able to trust your instincts and listen to your body.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of discipline. It's interesting. It's really hard because coming from the short course type racing background, I like to think I'm a racer. I like to put it on the line. I like Steve Prefontaine used to say, if giving anything less than 100% is cheating myself, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, an Ironman, you got to give 100% for 7 hours, 58 hours. You need to give 100% that whole time. It's not 100% for 4 hours and then struggling home. So, look, watching the pre-movies, that was his big learning. If he even paced, he would end up running a lot quicker at the end of the race. So that's a big part of it. And actually, come to think of it, another huge part of my I guess the learning from Ironman WA last year was I was really struggling with bad swelling during hard races, hot races, longer races. I guess the more extreme the conditions, the worse it got. And it wasn't until I basically took in a quarter of the sodium, which I would usually take, that the swelling stopped happening. And so after 8 years of trying, finally figured out what was causing the swelling of the periphery.
So you feel you were taking on too much salt? Excuse me,
yeah. So being a big sweater, I was always a bit concerned with I guess my sweat rate and losing too much sodium and cramping. But I've never really had a problem with cramping, touch wood, so getting fluid and getting sodium in are kind of two different things.
Yeah, and it's the laboratory is race day.
yeah.
And they don't come around that often, and there's a lot of hours of prep that go into them.
Listeners, today's show is lovingly brought to you by Normatec. Normatec is the leader in rapid recovery systems designed to give a competitive edge to the world's elite endurance athletes. The Normatec Pulse recovery systems are a dynamic compression device designed for recovery and rehabilitation, using its patented pulse technology to help athletes recover faster between workouts and after performance by reducing muscle soreness and improving circulation. It's simple. Get fresh legs faster with Normatec. If you'd like more information about how to get your hands or legs inside the Normatec boots, then jump over to alphasport, alphasport.com.au. Support for today's episode also comes, as always, lovingly from POGO Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through our doors to cross their physio finish line. That's simple. That's where we high-five you and tell you that you've finished rehabilitation. We've got unique and industry-first ways to get the job done, save you money, and get you back to your physical best. Simply jump over to pogophysio.com.au for information about all the different things we do, including our wellness booster packages, our finish line programs, and our 1 hour Discover Recover initial appointment. Let's jump back now with Terenzo Bozzone.
Terenzo, your background, you mentioned the word background there. I believe you were born in South Africa before you moved to New Zealand as a young boy. Yeah. Can you just take us through your origin story, Terenzo growing up and then finding your way into triathlon?
Yeah, so I guess my dad's half Italian, half French. He was born in a little island off the coast of Africa called Mauritius. Mum's half South African, half Lebanese. And my brother and I were born in SA, grew up there, moved to New Zealand when I was 11. And I guess when we were growing up, my parents just gave us as many opportunities as they could. We played tennis, soccer, cricket, athletics, swimming. Kind of as many sports as we could get in. Karate was a big thing for us, karate, kung fu. And it just, I guess, kept us active and gave us a feeling for what was out there. And I guess for me, just that I really enjoyed pushing my body and seeing what I could make from it. Moved to New Zealand in '96, and I guess my parents made the shift to give my brother and I the best opportunities that they could give us, and it's been a great time here. The whole family consider New Zealand home, and we love it here, and I've represented New Zealand, won all my world titles under the New Zealand flag. So hopefully there's no South Africans listening, and support the All Blacks, I guess. So yeah, never played a proper game of rugby in my life, and I don't intend to. I think I would break, and we'll see what. Hopefully my son stays away from it too.
And at what point through you won the Duathlon World Champs in the junior elites in 2001, 2002. Then you went on in the same year, 2002 and 3 to get the junior world tri-champs, elite juniors. But before that, those, obviously massive successes, was there any point where you realised that you really had, growing up through your formative years, where you realised that you really had some great athletic ability?
Yeah, well, it's a tough one. We actually when I was in South Africa and we were doing karate, we went to the World Champs for karate, which were in Japan. So I guess we've always been, my brother and I have always been competitive, and I guess, when we put our mind to it and work hard enough, we kind of get to the top of whatever sport it is we're playing at that time. It's hard. You don't, like, when you're a young kid, I don't think you ever want to, I guess, have that mentality that you're great, or that you're a great sports person, or that you're the best in the world. You kind of need that mentality that you want to keep working hard, keep striving to be the best you can be, keep pushing, keep looking for minor gains here and there, and just, I think that's where some younger athletes really struggle to transition into the senior ranks, is when they realize they're really good at a young age, and they, I guess, stop looking for that little bit of an extra edge.
And Terenzo, has there been any moments where your belief in yourself was really galvanized, where you went, okay, I've been working hard, I've been looking for the marginal gains, I've kept a humble humility, position around my performances, but now I really believe I am world class? Was there a galvanizing moment in your self-belief?
There are small moments like that, but it's really tough. I guess I've always tried to be as humble as I could be, and just thankful that I get the chance to do what I do. It's probably not a great thing. It's probably a downside of mine. I guess I struggle from time to time with that self-belief, with that. I mean, you get on the night before the race, and all these negative thoughts start entering your head. So just trying to have systems in place that take them out, and instead of thinking that you are the greatest, you're kind of thinking more process focused, what needs to happen the next day, and try and stay kind of focused on what you can control, instead of, I guess, the airy-fairy stuff. And
say the night before Kona this year, your best Kona finish, Hawaii Ironman World Champs to date, what was going through your head the night before? If the doubts start to kick in, you start to shift towards process. Do you mean, like, can you give listeners an example? Okay, the swim, you're going to do this. The transition, you're going to do this.
Yeah, to be honest, that's probably a huge reason why the last couple of months have been successful. The pre-race stuff, I guess I've been on the straight and narrow with my headspace leading right into the race, and managed to stay on top of that kind of stuff. So just like you said, I'm in the swim, I'm thinking about where I'm starting, what's my turnover going to be like off the start, whose feet am I looking for, what kind of position in the group I want to be in, and then you step through transition, step through the bike, where do you want to be riding through town, where do you want to be on the highway, who are good guys you want to be watching, what are you meant to be feeling like, what's going to happen if you're not feeling like that, and the more you can be locked into those processes, fixated onto I guess the processes of the race, the what you can control during the race, there's less opportunity for those negative thoughts to enter, and that's the great thing I get when traveling with the family to races like that. So if you're by yourself a lot of the time, when you're not thinking like that, and when you're not training, you're sitting down just chilling out by yourself, and that's when I guess the opportunity for stuff like negative thoughts there's the opportunity for the negative thoughts to kind of slip in. But when you have your family there and you can, I guess, when you're not training, when you're not thinking about the race, you're thinking about your kids, and you're thinking about your wife, and she's asking you what you want for dinner, and you're trying to figure out food situations. So that's a very welcome distraction.
And I think, Terenzo, it's fascinating. Like, people would look at your performances across your career and certainly your recent form, and it would be surprising to think that someone of your physical capacity when it comes to elite triathlon could have doubts. It just, but I know they exist for every athlete. This is what you do with them, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, it's funny. A lot of us, a lot of professional athletes. I guess that's why there's careers made out of being a sports psychologist. It's it's definitely a very temperamental area.
There's a need, and I find elite sports, whether it's triathlon, whatever the pursuit, Terenzo, it's a confidence game, right? You feel as good as your last result.
Yeah, exactly. As good as your last result, as good as I guess the preparation. Probably works into effect, quite strongly as well.
And Terenzo, describe the darkest day in your athletic career to date. What's that one been?
There were some pretty dark days in the build up to this year's Kona, actually. We were in San Diego with the family, and started getting some pretty major niggles, which stopped me running dead in my tracks, and I guess you start, like, it's just really frustrating for me. Like, it's been a really rough start to the year, and finally when I thought I was finding some good form and getting on top of things, it's like the universe comes and drops this bomb on you. It's like, why? What have I done? Like, am I in the wrong pathway? What am I meant to do? Well, how am I meant to handle this? Because it just seems that every turn there was a new obstacle that I had to overcome. But I think those obstacles that you do have to overcome are kind of what makes you into the athlete that you're meant to be, and the person that you're meant to be. But yeah, the darkest days probably are those injuries, coming back from those injuries where you're a little bit off the pace when you stand on the start line, and you just wonder if everyone has just taken a huge step up, and if you're ever going to be able to catch back up or not.
So is that belief again? And any specific injuries, Terenzo, that have just been, you mentioned a few niggles this year leading into Hawaii. How far out from the race? I mean, Hawaii occurs in October. Are we talking about September or August? Yeah,
so beginning of September. Actually, had 2 weeks where I couldn't run middle to the 10th to the 24th of September. Well, I stood on the start line in Cozumel 17.3 and just gave it a blast, and got through it with a bit of pain, but a few painkillers and anti-inflammatories couldn't fix.
And you took the win, so clearly maybe the rest helped freshen you up.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what was the injury?
Both my Achilles actually started flaring up, and different to what I've had in the past. I was actually getting a little bit of bursitis on my left heel, and then like a weird tendonitis on my right side. And I've never had problems on my right side. So I put it down a little bit to flying up to LA and driving in the traffic down to San Diego for 3 hours on the same day. Maybe irritated my tendon a bit. It's me trying to look for an excuse that's not my bad running technique. and probably just the different kind of running terrain. Generally, there's a bit of a camber which you're usually on, just different kind of stuff, and probably went a patch of a couple of weeks where I wasn't getting the same body work that I was getting while back home.
And tendons can be very cantankerous. It's probably the thing that I spend the most time helping patients with in the physio practice. Terenzo is lower limb running related tendon conditions, so they are interesting. Mate, you just mentioned bad running technique. That struck me as an interesting comment, because I look at you and I think you move very well. What would you change about your technique?
Thanks. I'm gonna fire my physio and take you around with me, Brad. I guess my guy's always looking at the marginal gains here and there, and But yeah, sometimes not the stuff you need to hear a couple of days before a race. And I guess, there's definitely a few things with my technique. Cross the center line pretty bad on my running. Probably elbow drive could be a bit better. Externally rotate quite a bit. Pronate, just collapsing on my both sides, but right side particularly badly. Too much extension out the front. there's a few things.
Well, Terenzo, I want to give you some comfort, mate, and it's interesting. Technique is not always correlated with efficiency, and clearly for you guys to do what you do and get off the bike after averaging maybe 43 or 44 odd k an hour, and then run a 2:53 in blistering heat recently in WA, maybe up to 41 degrees, I believe. You have clear efficiency, so mate, I think you're on the right track. Terenzo, let's do a performance round. A few rapid fire questions here with a few fun questions.
Wait, how long do I have to answer the questions? Because I'm not feeling too onto things right now. I've had a couple of beers.
Well, this might make you a bit more liberated. Here we go. You ready? You can take as long as you like. Training session most disliked.
Hill efforts.
Bike, or were you on the bike or on the road? Training session most loved.
Again, hill efforts.
What do you like about them?
That, I guess the way my coach and I did them, we would always put quite a few hill efforts in there, so it could be quite a long, grueling session. But so I don't like it when it's a long, grueling session, but I quite enjoy it when it's a shorter, sharper, slightly less rep type workout.
Favorite pre-race meal, Terenzo?
That's really boring because it's Groundhog Day for three days going into the race. A lot of salmon, sweet potato. We call it kumara down here, and maybe a little bit of pasta. But that's basically it. But post race, pizza.
Which sort?
Mama's pizza if possible. Otherwise, just a margarita.
And in terms of your pre-race meal, you're kicking off in Hawaii, Kona. What would your morning look like meal-wise for something like Kona?
Bowl of oatmeal with a couple of scoops of protein powder and almond milk.
And how long before the race start are you ingesting that?
Generally 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah.
With a strong coffee, like a hair on your chest coffee.
Bedtime, morning time. Are you fairly disciplined around sleep hygiene, or not since the addition of your second child?
In season, definitely sensitive. Bedtime 9:30 to 10. Wake up time about 5:30 usually, and then an hour nap during the day.
Terenzo, who's the athlete that you most admire and why?
Old school athlete. I'm going to say Chris McCormack. He always performed at the top at a really high level over all distances, and he also, I guess, had the business hat on a lot of the time. So he managed to, I guess, think about racing and think about business at the same time. Currently, probably, I have to say Jan Frodeno is probably a pretty good benchmark at the moment. I had the privilege to train with him the last couple of years a little bit, and just seeing how he operates is really puts things in perspective.
What's one thing you learned from your time with Jan?
About 14 hours of massage a week is not overkill.
So what, 2 hours every day?
Yeah.
So any other insights?
No, he just goes after it. He leaves no stone unturned and just goes after it.
Beautiful. Toughest competitor you've ever raced, Terenzo, and why?
To be honest, I haven't actually gone head to head with him too many times, but just watching how he races. I'm going to say Lionel Sanders. He just seems to be pretty mongrel.
And a mantra. Is there a mantra that you use when you race, Terenzo? Something that's consistent self-talk?
Yeah, but that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, which is fine, mate. You don't have to put that out in the public domain.
Yeah.
Best recovery tip, Terenzo?
I'm just going to go through it real quick because it's hard to isolate one. Chuck on like post hard workouts and between all these races, I was straight after the race. 2 times U compression tights, Normatec boots on, so just get the compression, get the blood flowing, get the lactic acid moving. Protein shake was within 30 minutes to an hour of finishing. Massage either that evening or the next day. Gentle flushing on the bike the following day, and if I can after the race. And rest. Try good sleep habits and good recovery.
Yeah, brilliant. One word to describe your racing style.
Aggressive.
How would you describe being in the zone?
Pretty sweet.
When was the last time you were in the zone?
I'm gonna say probably Island House was pretty switched on.
That sprint finish with Ben Canute.
Yeah.
What was the first thing? A side note you said to Ben on finishing?
To be honest, it's a bit of a blur actually. We didn't. It was more of a, I guess, goes without saying, silent congratulations. We stuck it to each other pretty good out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And listeners, we'll tag up some footage of Island House in the show notes. Terenzo, what's the hardest training session you've ever done?
Okay. That's a tough one. They're all pretty hard. I'm gonna go with in the Kona build-up this year. There was I think I had a 6.5 hour ride with some race pace intervals early on. So I was in San Diego Road. It's called the Henshaw Loop, and it's about I think the Henshaw Loop by itself is 160 odd k, 180 odd k, but you can chuck in the climb up Mount Palomar, which makes it 200 k's, and Mount Palomar is like an hour climb, and in that part of the desert it gets pretty hot, so you're up around 40 degrees, and yeah, there were definitely a couple pauses on the climb up Mount Palomar. It was struggle street on the way home. Get off the bike and had some race pace stuff running, and just a grueling day in the office.
2 hours of massage at the end.
I don't think anyone could touch me after that. I was in the fetal position, just drinking as much as I could.
Best advice you've ever had?
Probably, I guess it comes from a lot of people, but when it comes from my wife, it has special significance. Just telling me you've got nothing to lose. Don't put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, brilliant. Don't put pressure on yourself. And Terenzo, last question in the performance round. What's the funniest thing you've ever seen while racing or training?
That one I can't say.
That's not for the public domain either.
I was just thinking about poor Pete Jacobs in Busselton. I guess I'm saying it now, aren't I? We had the stagger, the 20-second stagger start, and Pete left 20 seconds in front of me. And we started at the beach, ran through transition, and then jumped on our bikes. And I actually passed Pete while he was putting his socks on in transition. So I was a little bit gutted for Pete, because I've raced with him when he was at the top, raced and trained with him when he's at the top of the game, and know what kind of talent he has and what kind of ability he has. So watching him sitting there wasting his time was a little bit funny, a little bit frustrating, a little bit cringeworthy.
Yeah, gosh, from the highs and the lows and everything in between with sport. Terenzo, typical training week for the uninitiated that don't understand what goes into your preparation, just the headlines, obviously not the detailed sessions, but what's the headlines like? How many sessions you do in a week? What might your volume be at peak times? So generally five swims, 5 to 6 bikes, and 5 to 6 runs, anywhere kind of between 20 and 30 hours a week at the moment. I used to do quite a bit more than that, but kind of brought down the duration a bit and up the intensity a little bit at the moment, and finding that's just creating a different stimuli and working quite well off that. Up in the intensity in terms of just pushing to higher percentages of work across all disciplines? Yeah, basically. Just every workout has specific stuff that needs to get done, and training load ends up being pretty similar to what it would be if I was doing 40 hours, but just managed to get it done. Bit of bang for my buck, but still recovery becomes still pretty important. Yeah, and in terms of strength work, Terenzo, any strength work that you do throughout your week?
I had these great intentions of doing heaps of strength stuff. So I set up a gym in my my garage at the beginning of the year. I've used it a handful of times. When I'm really onto it, I'll go probably 2 to 3 gym workouts a week, about 40 minutes.
And that's program that you've written yourself, or is that your coach inputting on that one?
Bit of stuff I do myself, a bit of stuff I've learned over the years, I guess.
A quick break from Terenzo Bozzone. Listeners, if you missed last week's episode featuring Lionel Sanders, here's a little snippet.
Yeah, I mean, I probably like on the run 4x5K, just because it's that threshold, just slog over and over, mental kind of game. And then the same idea on the bike, 4x30 minutes, just a slog kind of, threshold pace stuff. I like that stuff.
Listeners, Lionel Sanders' episode has been remarkably popular. If you'd like to listen to the full episode 92, simply jump over to the archives in your favourite podcast player. But now let's jump back to Terenzo Bozzone.
Terenzo, in terms of advice for first-time Ironman triathlon competitors, what would be your top 3 tips for a debut Ironman?
Probably need one tip to get going. So that's either get a coach or get a good training group. It'll make the preparation for Ironman a lot more enjoyable and probably a lot more insightful as well. Race day pacing is a huge thing. If you go out too hard at the beginning of the bike, you're gonna not really enjoy the rest of the day. But if you go out potentially slightly too easy and can finish the bike strong and can work your way through the marathon and feel good at work your way through the marathon and feel good at the end is kind of not really Ironman, but just keep moving forward at a good rate throughout the day. That'll be a huge win. And then just getting the nutrition right early on will kind of pay huge dividends. So figuring out how much sodium you can get away with not taking, and your caloric intake needs. And
it's so much to pulling it all together, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a few moving pieces in the puzzle.
Amazing. Terenzo, what's on your bucket list, both in sport, outside of sport?
I'd love nothing more than to win the Ironman World Champs in Hawaii. That's right up there. So kind of everything over the next couple of years will be revolved around that. Outside of sport, I can't really ask for much more. I've always asked God to bless me with 2 healthy and happy kids, and He's done that. I got a great wife, and we live in a cool place. I can't really ask for much more, so I'm pretty happy.
Just add that mantle to the that trophy to the mantelpiece, and you'll be right. We've had actually a couple of what's that?
That'll be life will be all sorted then.
That's it. What a chapter. We've actually had while we're recording a listener question come through on Instagram here, Terenzo, and there's 2 actually. Josh Minogue, who's a surf lifesaving athlete here in Australia, who's off to Hawaii in 2018, racing Ironman Western Australia. He says, does Terenzo eat more or less cement than Lionel Sanders every day?
Oh, mate, love it.
And then JB Berger has asked, Macca has long tipped Terenzo to be one of the best. However, has he always underperformed by those standards? What has he changed, adjusted to have such a phenomenal streak recently, especially at Kona, racing different time zones, different formats, different continents with minimal rest and recovery with the recent streak? So I think you've already answered that, Terenzo.
Yeah, I think so. I think, throughout my career, I've kind of had little stints where things go really well. I think it's it's definitely hard, and like we said, there's definitely a lot of moving pieces to kind of get things right. 12 months of the year in and year out. I've been doing this for quite some time now, so there's going to be bad patches and bad years, but hopefully the older I get and the smarter I get, I can kind of make those bad patches slightly less. But I think one of the huge things was just getting the sodium intake levels, or getting close to getting them right for Kona has made a huge difference.
Did you do any salt lab testing? Any tests for that, Terenzo?
Yeah, I did. I think I was like around 690 milligrams a litre. But yeah, I can actually get away with even taking probably half that in a race, I think.
Yeah, no, sure. Terenzo, what's the one bit of training advice you'd give to listeners across the board on how to perform at their best? If all your learnings, your 12 years professional, your many years as a junior leading up to this, what would be the one bit of advice?
Consistency is pretty huge. Yeah, if you can consistently train, consistently work on improving. Work on improving your running, work on improving your power on the bike, work on improving your swimming times. That's going to be great. If you expect to just take huge steps every now and then without putting in the hard work, it's not going to happen, and it's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could have dinner, fun question, Terenzo, with 3 people, living or past, who'd be at your table and why?
It's getting political now, eh? I'm going to go Jared Butler. Just I think he's pretty cool. I'm quite into a bit of actors. Actors, that sounds really bad. And Chris Froome, be great to pick his brain a little bit about what he does and how he does it. And Donald Trump, just I can see how bad his toupee is, I guess.
So that's a pretty Chris Froome makes sense. Donald Trump, well, why not? And Jared Butler, I think that would be a dynamic table. Fantastic.
I'm sure. No, I'm sure someone will say something inappropriate. Probably be me.
Or maybe Donald will tweet it. Tell me, Terenzo, physical challenge for the week. Every guest issues listeners with a physical challenge. It can be entry level or it can be extremely arduous. What's Terenzo Bozzone's physical challenge of the week going to be?
Okay, this is a swim workout I did with Simon Whitfield back when he was preparing for Athens in 2004, and I guess I pulled it out of the bag occasionally just to see where my swimming's at. Try to do it in a short course pool because long course is way too hard. So the set is start at 8 by 100, and you work your way down to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and finish off with 2 by 100 with basically 100 meters easy in between each set. Find a base, like a send off that's not too hard. You don't want. It's not really about building up that endurance. It's more about kind of just building up a kind of lactate tolerance and being strong at the end of the workout. And the key of the session is to, for example, start with 8 by 100, swimming 1:15 for the 100 meters and leaving on 1:30. For the 7 by 100, you take off 1 second, so you're swimming on 1:14, leaving on 1:30. And just work your way down, take a second off each set until you get to pretty full gas by the 2 by 100.
Yeah, wow, what a set. So listeners, if you take on this swim set challenge from Terenzo, be sure to tag Terenzo in on social media and let him know that you've completed it. Terenzo, on that, where can listeners follow your journey? Where can we find you and follow your journey forwards?
Cheers, man. You can check out my Instagram, Terenzo1. That's Terenzo number 1. Twitter's the same, Terenzo1, or Facebook. Become a fan, Terenzo Bozzone Facebook page.
And listeners, Terenzo's a great follow on Instagram, so do jump over and follow him along. Terenzo, you've got some great supporters that have been with you for some time. I connected with you as well through the Bahrain Endurance team, 13, Vision, Oakley. There's quite a few. Anyone you just want to shout out to? Thanks a lot. I'm really fortunate to have a good team. Been riding Argon 18 bikes for about 5 years now, and really like those bikes. 2 times you, Bahrain Endurance 13 team, Cliff Bar, Aquasphere, Oakley. Very, very fortunate to have a good team of sponsors behind me, and I guess it makes all this possible, and gives that little something extra to fight towards at the end of a race. Terenzo, the Bahrain endurance team, I mean, it's the most star-studded lineup of male and female endurance athletes in the world, on the planet.
Yeah.
What's one cool story from your time with the Bahrain endurance team to share with listeners?
There's plenty, but what happens in Bahrain stays in Bahrain. No, it's. I think probably the coolest part about being part of the team is we don't race together in a team. We don't. We don't do anything really as a team in the sense of cycling team. But if we're at a race and one of the other 12 athletes are there, we'll definitely go out of our way and kind of just give that person a little bit more encouragement. And there's that slightly tighter camaraderie between us 13 athletes on that team. To be honest, there's some. I mean, with Alistair Brownlee, Gomez, Jan, Daniela Reif. I mean, they're all icons of the sport, and even I get a little starstruck when I'm in a room with those guys. So it's a cool team to be a part of. It's a great initiative, and one of the, I guess, the out there things is when we go to a competition where His Highness and I guess visionary behind the team, Sheikh Nasser, when he competes and there's a few races where he competes at, we get looked after really well. Like there's a great, he's got a private room after the race. There's a great spread on. Tried some camel after the Bahrain 70.3 a couple of weeks ago. Tastes a bit like chicken, I guess. But yeah, it's always an experience, and just feel very, very lucky to be able to be part of it and experience it firsthand.
I think you just hit on the secret sauce, Terenzo. That's the camel.
Yeah, a few of the locals were saying that is the secret sauce. It's pretty good stuff, and especially the meat underneath the hump. That's the meat you want to hit.
Well, I have to put it on the to-do list. Terenzo, you get to tag an athlete. Who do you think would be someone that would be interesting for listeners to hear from?
Oh, gee, Macca can tell stories with the best of them, but I presume you've already done Macca.
Yeah, Macca's in the archives, so we're referring to Chris McCormack. Listeners, if you want to go back through the archives, who else springs to mind?
Probably Sebastian Kienle. He's always pretty funny and a real good guy as well.
All right, so Sebi, we'll be coming for you, and it'd be great to hear from. So, Terenzo, 2018 races, we can keep an eye out for you, appearing obviously in Kona. Where else?
Thanks, man. Still working on the schedule after the last whirlwind trip. I decided to have a good little off-season break. Haven't actually had a chance to sit down with the coach and plan things for next year, but. There'll be a bunch of 70.3s, maybe a full distance or two in the middle of the year. Hopefully Collins Cup is going to go ahead, and that'll be at Roth. That'll be quite an exciting new initiative if that goes ahead. Great for the sport. And then just build up to Kona. I'll try roll a pretty similar outlay that I did to this year, and see if I can replicate how I feel on the day, and just edge up a few places.
Yeah, brilliant. The Collins Cup. Sorry for my ignorance, Terenzo. What's the Collins Cup?
They're starting PTA, Pro Triathlete Association, and that's kind of going to be their marquee event, their launch event. Just trying to give the professional athletes a little bit more ownership in the sport, and a little bit more potential to capitalize on it, on the great sport that we all have a big part of. So hopefully something goes ahead, and pro athletes can start having more of a voice, and just get to compete a little bit more beneficially for everyone.
Yeah, what a great initiative, certainly for the sport of triathlon, which for so many years has ridden the waves of blooming professionalism, but there's so much more I think to come. So Terenzo, I know you are a man with 2 children, beautiful wife there at home, and this is your downtime, your off season. So after a massive whirlwind streak of form. So thank you very much for your time and sharing your insights today.
Cheers, Brad. Really, really good to catch up, and hope to see some of your listeners out there at some of the races in the future.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I trust you enjoyed today's episode featuring Terenzo. If you did, please let both Terenzo and myself know. You'll find our social media handles over at pogophysio.com.au along with a copy of today's show notes. If today was your first time tuning in to the Physical Performance Show, then a mighty, mighty welcome. If it was in fact your 93rd time, then thank you for your ongoing support. And in fact, if you've listened to all 93 episodes, why don't you shoot me a message over on Twitter or email. Twitter handles @Brad_beer or my email b.beer, at pogophysio.com.au. I'd love to know if you've tuned into all the episodes so far. If you've enjoyed today's episode and know someone who would benefit or enjoy the episode, then please consider hitting share from your device or smartphone and share it with that special person. Spreading the love around means the world to myself and also the guests who so generously share on the show. And don't forget, of course, to hit subscribe if you would like to get each and every episode updated automatically into your device. Lastly, if you've been enjoying the show but are yet to leave a review on iTunes, then please consider taking a moment, jumping over to iTunes and leaving a rating and review. Heads up, it does need to be done on your desktop computer. And thank you to all 140 plus listeners of the show who have taken the time and made the time to leave a review. A massive thanks in particular this week to one faithful supporter of the show, and that is Lukey Ando. Lukey rated the program 5 stars and actually said it was the best sports podcast going. Oh, Lukey, love your work, mate. Lukey's comments were great insights from everyday athletes to the elite superstars. After listening to a podcast, you just want to go out and perform at your physical best. Lukey, thank you very much, good sir, for your support. It means a lot. Thank you. A big thank you to the good folk who make the Physical Performance Show possible, including our show sponsor, that is Normatec Recovery. Big thanks also to the good folk, Daryl Misson on all things audio engineer, Matt Olding on all things podcast and show graphics and design, and of course, Sophie Walker on all things podcast, marketing and administration. Big thank you as always. If you're into running, you can now pick up your copy of my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free. And you'll be delighted to know that if you're after the paperback version, then if you jump over to pogophysio.com.au and head to the shopping cart, if you enter the promo code POD 2018, you'll receive 50% off. You Can Run Pain-Free, $9.95 for shipping. It's a thick book, 330 pages of 5-step methodology to help you do what the cover says, enjoy injury-free and faster running. If you're overseas, jump over to Amazon in your country to order your copy, or jump over to pick up the Kindle version electronically or audio versions via iBooks or Amazon. And finally, it's 2018, and we just want to throw a bit of love back to you. If you've been enjoying the show, consider tagging myself at Brad_beer in on Instagram. Simply pop that handle in there, caption up a picture on your gallery, letting your followers know that you've been enjoying an episode of the Physical Performance Show. It could be a repost of one of our guests' quotes for the week, and we'll pick a winner each week and send you a copy of You Can Run Pain-Free as a little gift and a way of saying thank you. Coming up in next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I keep the triathlon theme going. I'll be bringing you a conversation I had with Richard Varga. Richard is a 2-times Slovakian Olympic Games triathlon representative, representing Slovakia in 2012 and again in Rio in 2016. Richard Varga is affectionately known as the Fish. He is regarded as the fastest swimmer in the sport of triathlon. And in next week's episode, we unpack what it takes to swim like a fish. Yes, it's 3 triathletes in a row, but hey, we're talking about a triathlon, 3 legs, 3 top-class world triathletes. That is Lionel Sanders, Terenzo Bozzone, and next week, Richard Varga. It's a lot of fun. Richard's a great guy. I caught up with him in the Super League Triathlon Series in 2017. You're going to really enjoy Richard Varga. Tune in next week. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.